out there. Welcome to the M.A.P, the Michael approved process for importing photos into Adobe Lightroom. This process over the past 8 years to about 1,500 students at Highline College in photography classes. And I found this process is wonderful because it organizes, names, and manages the whole process of bringing photos from the camera to Adobe Lightroom. So let's get started. Here we go. So Lightroom first. And the first step is to make sure your photos are either on your computer already. That's a separate video if you're importing from, let's say, a phone. But this one assumes you either have your photos already on your computer or they are on a memory card, and that's what I'm going to do here. So step number 1 in Adobe Lightroom, make sure you're in the library module. That's the module that has a button in the lower left corner called Import. We'll start there by clicking that. If you have a memory card plugged in, it should show that. I currently have an old iPhone also plugged in as a clock, so that's what it defaults to. My memory card is over here on the left. It's called Untitled. So here we have a sequence of photos that I recently photographed outside my condo. You are welcome to change the size of the thumbnails to smaller or larger. You can do that down in the lower part of the screen. So I'm going to keep it about this size. One of the things I will say at this point, this is not the point to be deciding which photo is the right photo. These previews are still relatively small, so all the photos I take for a session, I will import. You can see here I have 4 or 5 photos of the same thing. Which one is the winner? I don't know yet. I'm going to go ahead and import them all, and we'll decide when I can see them larger. All right, so here we begin the import process. On the right-hand side, I do a little bit of housekeeping to get my Lightroom organized the way I like. And I start in the destination panel, which is the panel on the right. At the bottom, I think that defaults to what's open when you launch Lightroom for the first time. Lightroom by default wants to organize your photos into a process called by date. I prefer to choose and click there and choose the option for into one folder. Next, so I'll close that. I don't need that anymore. Next, I do open the file handling and file renaming. So once I close destination, I will be using the file handling panel and the file renaming panel. So basically, once I'm here, I have 3 steps I'm going to do working from the top down that will organize my photos and manage the import process of copying them from my camera memory card to the computer. So we already have the photos showing on my screen. That's the hard part sometimes. The next step is to show Lightroom where I want to save them. What I'm doing here is building a script, a recipe for Lightroom. So once I have my panel set up the way I want, the next step is to show Lightroom where I'd like to save the photos. I do that up here in the top right corner and tell Lightroom where I'd like to save my photos. Click where it says to, and then whatever hard drive name you have, and then choose the option Other Destination. So click on that. You'll see your computer window here. From here, go to your desktop, and then I suggest making a new folder. This folder will be the parent master folder that will hold all your photographs. And then what I do is I organize with individual folders inside of that for each project. And then those folders have the individual photos. So this project, so for the first parent folder, I'm going to call that imports. You can call it whatever you'd like, but that's the import process is what we're doing. So imports seems to make sense. Click on that to create it. Now within that, I'm going to make a new folder for this project. So once you have imports, inside of that, you'll make the specific folder for the project you're currently working on. So I am working on some photos I took around our condo. So my naming convention is usually location and then maybe a little description. Sometimes in the folder, I also include the date. For this, so I'll keep it a little simple. I live in Sammamish. We're about 25 miles east of Seattle. So I'll call it Sammamish condo details, because I took some photos of plants and such around here up close. So I'll create that, and that's where my photos are going to be stored as they get copied to the computers from my desktop to imports, Sammamish condo details. So I'm going to click choose on that. Next step, in Lightroom, I can choose where to store these and organize these in Lightroom. Lightroom calls their folders or albums collections. So in the bottom of the file handling panel, go down there, activate add to collection to turn that on, and then there's a plus sign over here on the right. Click that plus sign and give it a name. This will be inside of Lightroom. I usually keep my names the same, so that same name I use for the folder on the computer, I'll also use for the collection in Lightroom. So Sammamish condo details for here, and we'll click create to set that up. So again, I've built a script so far that tells Lightroom where to save the photos on the computer. Next, in the file handling, where to create an organizational structure inside of Lightroom to save those photos. Last step is to give these photos actual names. These default to _DSF5785.RAF. Yours will be different, but that name's not helpful. I like to give names that are also descriptive. So to start that, I will turn on rename files, and then I will choose a different template. By default, the template is date-file name. I prefer custom name-sequence. So here, just as I did with the location on the computer and the collection in Lightroom, I'm going to use the same name. So I'm going to go Sammamish condo details, and I'm also going to add the date. I use a computer naming convention, so with the date first, the month second, and then the day last. Computers sort that way. I use 2-digit numbers always for month and day. So this will be 01 for the month, and the date was today, which is the 19th. Oh, excuse me, 20th. So there's the name. So inside of Lightroom, it will remember that you want to name with custom name sequence and that you want to rename your file. So each time you name your photos, you do need to make sure you give them a custom name. Otherwise, they will show up as untitled. Also, each time you add to Lightroom with a new import, you will need to create a new collection for your photos, and then a new location, first in our case, in the computer. This process usually, once you get good at it, takes about 15 to 20 seconds. It's pretty fast. So we've got our photos selected. How I know that the photos are selected, they have a little checkbox in the top left corner. By default, Lightroom will select all the photos that you've pointed Lightroom to, or in this case are on the memory card. If there are some you did not want to import, maybe it was super out of focus or just black, you would just click on the upper left corner on that little checkbox to turn that one off. Selecting multiple photos, so say a range of photos. Let's say I just want the photos of these trees and up to here. So I would uncheck all first. That turns off all the photos. Come down to the last photo or the first photo in the range. Click on the gray large box frame around it. Scroll up a little bit and then hold down Shift and click on the gray frame, large frame around that photo. That's step 2. Here's step 3. To select those, you would click any of the check boxes in the top left corner. Now those photos are selected. I do want to import all of these, so I'm going to click check all and then complete the import process in the bottom right corner with the button labeled import. Just click on that. You will see a progress bar in your top left corner. That will show Lightroom doing its work of importing the photos. You will see previews start to build. These are raw files from a Fujifilm camera, so they're relatively large and take a moment to import, but not too bad. If you have questions about this video or the process, feel free to send me an email at m, as in Michael, at msladekphoto.com, or leave a reply here and I will answer. Thank you so much. I hope this was a help. Look for more videos soon. Thank you.